Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with the story of petty revenge performed by our Honorable OP because he was tired of the mailman's pathetic service. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. The day I decided that I finally had enough of my mailman delivering my mail to my neighbors. Ever since I moved to my place 2 years ago, the mailman has been a big source of irritation. He just can't do the simple job of putting the mail in the correct letterboxes. I live in an apartment block, and me and the guy next door are well used to getting each other's mail, and it's not uncommon that I get mail addressed to people in other buildings. Each apartment are equipped with slot letter boxes of the kind that you get your mail directly on the hall floor inside your front door. Everyone makes mistakes, and since me and my neighbor have similar names, mistakes are easy to make, yet easy to avoid when you're aware of them. And I have indeed made the mailman aware of this several times, but things didn't get any better. Not even for a short while. I've then talked to the local post office about this. I don't know if they really cared, but the mailman obviously didn't. I think I've called them no less than 3 times. I've changed the small printed plate with my name on the door to a big sheet of paper with my name handwritten with a red felt pen. Still, nothing improved. These are, of course, things friends, neighbors sort out by themselves. I put the mail misdelivered to me in the correct letterbox, and my neighbors hopefully do the same. Still, a small but constant source of irritation. I decided I had enough some weeks ago when I came home to a big pile of mail inside my door. Turned out that my neighbor had been on holiday for 2 weeks and my mail had been stockpiled on his floor. Not fun to be late with the payment because you haven't even got the bill. So that was when I decided to get my petty revenge on the mailman. I looked in the white pages and randomly chose 50 addresses to people in my neighborhood, addresses which I know are within my mailman's district. I then went on eBay to make a big order of neodymium magnets. If you don't know what neodymium magnets are, they're basically magnets that are super strong. You need to use quite some force just to pull 2 small magnets apart from each other. Much more powerful than the magnets you usually have on the door to your refrigerator. Thing is, I didn't make one single order. Instead, I made 50 tiny orders and entered a different shipping address on each order, each to one of my 50 random neighbors. Since the magnets were so small, they came in tiny parcels, meaning you don't have to go to the post office to collect them. Didn't cost a lot of money either. They're really cheap on eBay if you order them from China. Delivery takes a few weeks though, and the delivery day isn't specified. Therefore, I wasn't able to plan my work week to be at home the day the magnets finally arrived to all my unaware neighbors. But when I came home from work last Thursday and took the stairs up to my flat, I noticed that several doors had what seemed like small brown parcels glued to their letterboxes. I could picture the mailman having a hell of a day at work, dragging around a mailbag containing a big ball of letters affixed to each other. I wish I could have seen him having to pull each and every parcel apart from the others, only to make futile attempts to get them inside the letterboxes, as they all have flaps made of metal. He probably had some problems with the parcels sticking to his bike as well, and the buttons of his uniform. Side note, of course I made one of the orders to myself. I figured that would make me less of a suspect, but of course the parcel stuck to my letterbox was actually addressed to my neighbor. Felt a little weird to put it in his letterbox. I don't think the neighbors minded either. Those little magnets can always come in handy. You're some kind of vindictive genius. I like you. And I hope that loathsome mailman learns his lesson. And our second story. Where I come from, we have manners, says the rudest customer I've met in my life, ever. So, I work in a local chain supermarket here in the UK. We're a pretty small shop. So about a month ago, I served this old lady. She's a regular who I know very well and who always shops with us. She has one of those old lady shopping trolley things too, rather than using bags. I asked her 3 times if she wanted me to come out from the tills and help her pack shopping into her trolley. Each time she said words to the effect of, "Oh no, thank you dear, I can manage," You have a big queue. You carry on." So I did, and called over the next person in the queue. It was a guy, let's call him FC for faux Canadian, just buying one 4-pack of Budweiser. I scan it, hand it to him, and say, "That'll be XXXX, please." And he just looks from this old lady putting her last couple of things into her trolley, back to me, takes the beer, and walks over to the other till and pays for it there instead. I'm confused, but the next person's already waving their loyalty card in my face, so I void it and carry on. But FC, once he's bought his beer from my colleague, he just stands there, lurking and staring at me. He waits until the queue is gone and my colleague on the other till is left and the place is empty before marching up to me and shouting, "How dare you rush that old lady? No offense, but in Canada, where I come from, we have manners." This stunned me, as I'm British. We're pretty well known for our manners, and I pride myself on mine, and proceeded to say all sorts of other awful things to me. I tried to explain that I hadn't rushed the old lady at all, that I'd asked her several times if she wanted any help, and she'd said no. But every time I opened my mouth, he just kept repeating, "I said no offense," louder and louder over the top of me, like that meant I wasn't allowed to say anything at all. Later, when people were asking me what happened and who it was, as soon as I said, "He said he was Canadian," everyone went, "Oh, him." Apparently, he's been horrible to everyone in there for no reason, and also, he's not even Canadian. They said his cousin came in once and laughed so hard when they told her what he'd been saying. Apparently, he was born and raised in London, but just thinks Canada's cool, so he puts on the accent and tells everyone that's where he's from. He came in again last Sunday evening when it was just me and my manager on. I was on the tills, manager was running all around the shop doing the order for the delivery later that week. There was only FC and one other customer in the whole shop. I was almost finished serving the other person, but no, apparently that's not fast enough for Mr. Faux Canadian Manor Pants. My manager happened to walk past on his way back to the office when FC actually snapped his fingers at him and said, "You come serve me." I've never seen a customer be so rude ever, and that's saying something. My manager walks up and said, "I'm sorry, did you want help with something?" And FC goes, "No, I want you to serve me now." My manager looks from him to me, now counting the change for the one other person in the shop, but says, "Okay, no problem," comes round to the tills and does so. Manor Pants demands a bag for his one beer. My manager informs him they cost 5 pence each. We've had to charge for bags for years. The guy just stares at him before walking over to my till without a word to him and just saying, "Bag," to me. I'm holding one, but before I can say, "I'm afraid it's still 5 pence, he leans right over the counter, snatches it from my hands, and storms off. My manager's just standing next to me, staring after this guy and says, "What a jerk! Why couldn't he wait 10 seconds for you to serve him?" I tell him about the "in Canada we have manners" incident, which he hadn't heard about before. My manager decided to ban him from our shop right then and there, saying I should have reported FC to him when it happened, and he's not putting up with anyone speaking to his staff like that. FC hasn't tried to come back in again since, to my knowledge, so I don't know how he's going to react when he does and finds out he's banned. And our last story. The Kens in my neighborhood. I lived in a certain neighborhood from 1958 to 1994, with close ties to the others, and we had our share of Kens and Karens. In 1986, a house was built across the street from us, and several owners came and went. One of the owners was a Ken from the word go. This entitled jerk would walk around the area, walking into people's yards and looking over the fences. He would then call and make false complaints to the city about having violated the ordinances in regards to having too much garbage, a problem dog, unpainted home, boats he felt should not be in the yards, on and on and on. He trespassed on private property, argued with people that he had the right to do what he did as he owned property in the area. He went to meetings at City Hall and complained about the kids leaving their toys on the side of the road. There were no sidewalks on the beach or along the roads around the beach area. I saw him go into my dad's yard through a closed fence gateway. He argued with people and told them he had the right to do what he wanted to do and knew people who could clean up the neighborhood. He stated, "I don't like the look, and I'm going to change that." We lived in a summer cottage area where most were just summer residents. The rest of the year, the cottages were closed up and did look abandoned. I told my dad that this guy was walking into his yard and even peeking into windows. I caught him doing this and called him out on it. His reply was, "Mind your own business." My retort was, "What you're doing is my business. I've lived in this neighborhood longer than you, and if you want to get along, you should be the one to mind your own and stop walking through people's yards." Now, mind you, he just bought a new raised ranch that was an oddball in the area and didn't seem to fit in with the bungalows and cottages that were all over the area. His cocky attitude was so Ken. His reply was, "If I'm going to live in this area, I want all these run-down-looking buildings and the trash around them gone. And I'll see to it that they get demolished for better houses to be built." A lot of the year-round residents were shellfishers and fishermen and had boats, nets, all sorts of gear that went along with the trade in their yards. Ken didn't like the look. This really got my goat. I was fuming. Some of my friends' families had a heritage in this area back to the early 1800s. The home I had belonged to a well-known person who built it in early 1800s and was first recorded in 1893. The hotel off the beach was being recorded in 1833. How dare he insult the antiquity of this quaint little area? All of us were related in one way or another. We were close friends and looked out for each other. All I said to this self-entitled person was, "Try it and see what happens." By the end of the following summer, he'd been driven out by us finding a weak spot. I'd walked by his house and heard the woman crying and then a loud "shut up" and a smacking sound. I called the police and they promptly sent someone to that address. They must have found bruises on the woman because next thing I knew, I never saw her again. And Ken moved out. That's the sort of person you don't need in a heritage area. They're looking to take over plots of land, modernize, drive prices up, and then build, and sell and move out, leaving the local population unable to afford the homes which are now second homes for rich city people. Hey guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.